And we got some offseason headlines to go over. Most notably, TJ Watt contract, trade updates, that stuff, those rumors, those reports. So let's get into it because we got a few things that came up with TJ Watt from various insiders. First, probably the most famous one, Adam Schefter. We got a Schefter bomb. Went on ESPN radio and had some things to say on where TJ Watt and the Steelers are with the contract, and highlights that the sides really aren't close at all, pretty far apart. Says that's long away. I'm not ready to say anything like that right now on July 8th. I think he's referring to, as you can see here, holdout talk. TJ Watt potentially holding out throughout training camp. If we get to August 8th and it's still not resolved, well, that becomes a little bit more interesting, which it kind of doesn't make sense because if TJ Watt is going to hold out, it's going to be before August 8th. August 8th is towards the end of training camp. That'll be like right around our second preseason game. Maybe it's our first preseason game, depending on, I can't remember exactly how the schedule shapes out. But that's going to be around when preseason games start. Training camp usually is over by mid-August. So we'll know whether or not TJ Watt's holding out by August 8th. Maybe he misspoke there. Maybe he's talking about TJ Watt sitting out the whole season, holding out the whole season. Says that becomes a little bit more interesting. If it gets to September 8th, that's a big problem. But there's a lot of time to work these things out. And even though the sides may be far apart right now, I still think that somehow with this importance to the franchise, with TJ Watt's importance to the franchise, that they'll figure out a way to get this done at some point in time. And if not, other teams are waiting. Well, they're far apart right now, and there have been other teams that have mulled the idea that maybe they would approach the Steelers about it. Now, the Steelers have zero intention of trading him, but something has to give. You can't have it both ways. You can't say we want to keep this guy badly and then be far apart in the contract. So that's up to the two sides to figure out and how to resolve that. I wonder how far apart they can be. I wonder what the Steelers' offer is. Because we're seeing stuff with TJ, and you could believe what you want. He's looking for the top end dollar. He's looking to set the market, get more than Myles Garrett. We're seeing a lot of stuff involving that. And then we're also seeing stuff that TJ's not looking to set the market, but he's looking to get paid fairly. So the number, based off those reports and what TJ Watt is looking for, the number's got to be, because I could see both sides. I could see TJ Watt wanting to get more than Myles Garrett because of that rivalry, division rivalry between the two, the whole depoy race, and that little beef that those two have going on. I could also see him taking a little bit of a discount for the Steelers, some sort of little team-friendly deal, given what other edge rushers are getting paid right now, given that Max Crosby got $35 million, Myles Garrett got $40. So when you combine that together, the range it's got to be between 35 and like 41 million. If the Steelers are offering the 35 and TJ Watt wants the top dollar, wants more than Myles Garrett, I don't feel like that's far apart. So what could the Steelers be offering? Like, I think TJ Watt's range is between 35 and like 41 million. That would be like acceptable, wouldn't be a slap in the face type of offer. So like, what are the Steelers offering? Probably something that I would be offering, honestly. Like what I think the fair value, or let's not say fair value for TJ Watt. What the appropriate value would be for the Steelers at this point in time, state of the franchise, seeing what TJ Watt gave us last year, the fact that we don't have a playoff win with TJ Watt. The number I want, if I'm the Steelers, and I would actually think is reasonable from a business standpoint and where we are as a franchise right now standpoint, would be like 30 million. Yeah. Even less than that. I would want to give less than that. obviously I'd want TJ. If I'm the Steelers, I want TJ Watt paying on the vet minimum, but you also got to be reasonable here. It's funny because over the 4th of July weekend, the TJ Watt contract stuff was a point of conversation at some of these events and get-togethers that I was at. I think my brother asked me, what would you pay TJ Watt? What do you think's fair? What do you like? What's that number that you think is like appropriate value if you're the Steelers? Again, TJ's value on the open market. You see what Myles Garrett and Max Crosby is getting paid and what Micah Parsons is about to get paid. That's what TJ Watt's fair market value is on the open market from the Steelers standpoint. With his age, all the other factors at play, the complete context of also, I continue to say this, of just where the NFL is and how much more offense-oriented it is compared to even 5 years ago, especially 10 years ago. Should you be paying an edge rusher $40 million? An aging edge rusher, $40 million. So, like, if I'm the Steelers, I think the answer I gave my brother, I say all that to say this, I think the answer I gave my brother was like $25 million or $27 million. So I wonder if Omar Khan and me are on the same page of what the value of TJ Watt is to the Steelers right now, or like what we think would be the best for the franchise from a number standpoint. And I could see why TJ Watt maybe would feel that as a slap in the face or disrespectful. But man, that's what I'm thinking. And then if TJ doesn't like that, if the Steelers really want to play hardball and TJ doesn't like that, then you are talking about hold out and potentially trading TJ Watt. Because if the Steelers are really serious about wanting to make TJ a Steeler for life, as Schefter points out at the end of this quote right here, you can't have it both ways. You can't say we want to keep this guy badly, then be far apart in the contract. So if Steelers are serious about TJ Watt being a Steeler for life and TJ Watt is serious about being a Steeler for life, they'll find the middle ground, but they're far apart right now. And what does that mean? My guess is, this is my guess, it's Omar and the Steelers offering something that I would offer between like 25 and 30 million per year. Whereas TJ's thinking the team friendly deal is like 35, 36 million. The top end deal, the set the market deal, is 41 plus. So that's my best guess on what Schefter means here. Now, another part of this equation could be hard feelings, some bad blood from past negotiations. Here's what Aditi Kinkle-Bala had to say about how the conversations went between TJ and the Steelers during the last contract negotiations, which would have been in 2021. This was coming off of TJ's rookie deal, and TJ is absolutely balling out. Did he win? When did he win the DPOY? Was it before 2021? Either way, he should have had a DPOY before 2021. Like, dude was first team All-Pro, easily best edge rusher in the league, should have been considered the best defensive player in the league for at least a season or two, but got snubbed from the award. And at that point, TJ's looking to get paid top dollar. He's in the prime of his career. Obviously, he's not going to be getting worse as the contract ages out. And it looks like there was, some back and forth that got ugly here. So you see the headline, how past tensions with Steelers could linger during ongoing negotiations. Here's what Aditi said. TJ Watt was openly told by the Steelers, "You're fortunate to be a Steeler." And his response was, "You're fortunate to have me." The Steelers' attitude, the Steelers' mindset, and you see this from so many fans too, is that it's such a privilege to be in this uniform, to wear this helmet, and that therefore you should take a hometown discount just because you get to play for one of these cornerstone trademark organizations. Huh. I mean, I think this is just business. This is how negotiations go. Both sides are right for feeling that way or saying that. Because if you're the Steelers and you're talking to TJ, like, bro, I don't know if you're getting as much accolades, if you're getting as much attention if you're a part of another organization. Now, is TJ Watt as good if he was drafted to a different franchise like the Texans or the Jaguars, Colts? Yeah, maybe he's putting up really good numbers, because I do also in a way feel that way about the greats. If you're a great, you're just a great. But is it the same? Does TJ have the same type of cachet, the same vibe if he's the Texans edge rusher? Because I mean, there's a ton of really good edge rushers in the league, or have been in the league over the course of TJ Watt's career, that haven't gotten the respect and consideration that TJ Watt has got. Now, maybe you could just say rightfully so, they're flat out right not as good as TJ Watt. But like Danielle Hunter, bro, like that dude, he's been putting on a clinic. He's been putting up some top sack numbers over the last like 5 or 6 years. Just look at his stats. But no one's talking about Danielle Hunter like they're talking about TJ Watt. Why is that? I mean, part of it could be the jersey that he's wearing, the franchise that he's a part of. Look at what other name was I going to bring? I was going to say Trey Hendrickson. I actually think he's a pretty good example. Like, he finally got some recognition that he deserves for the sack numbers that he's been putting up, but still not even to the degree that some could argue, because he finished behind TJ Watt in the DPOY race last year. And that's with TJ Watt having a down year, only having like 11 something sacks, and Trey Hendrickson being last year's sack leader. But up to that point, like, no one was talking about Trey Hendrickson being in the same stratosphere as TJ Watt, or even some of the other top end pass rushers like a Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons. Now, Myles Garrett, I think Myles Garrett, honestly, and he's part of the Browns, I think he benefits from being in the same division as TJ Watt, and the Browns being rivals to the Steelers, because that's what keeps like the Myles Garrett conversation going, right? Like, if Myles Garrett was on the Texans or the Jaguars or one of these other teams, does he get the same recognition? I don't know, because everyone loves a good story. Everyone loves a good rivalry. Everyone loves the drama. So like TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, they have that thing going on with the AFC North. But because Myles Garrett with the Browns have been an irrelevant franchise ever since they got back. I mean, ever since really like they joined the NFL. They don't have a Super Bowl, but really ever since 2000, whenever they got back in the league as an expansion franchise, because we know that story. They went from being the Browns in the mid 90s, and the owner takes them over and they become the Baltimore Ravens, and the Browns are without a franchise for like 2-3 years. So ever since they jumped back into the league, it was at like 99, 2000, they've been irrelevant. But I think Myles Garrett, being talked about as one of these top edge rushers. Now the stats back it up, his play backs it up, but I think he benefits in terms of like having that conversation going, and that he has some little bit more cachet than some of these other edge rushers, like I mentioned, Trey Hendrickson and Danielle Hunter, because of the rivalry, the TJ Watt, the back and forth between those two there. But you heard me list off the guys that are considered top of the game at the edge rush position, the outside linebacker position. It's TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons. Do you think it's a coincidence, 3 of those 4, that they're on these top-end franchise, relevant franchise, year in, year out, very talked about franchises? And then, like I said, with Myles Garrett, he's with the Browns, but benefits from the TJ Watt rivalry in division, the Steelers versus Browns rivalry, all that type of stuff, that drama. So part of this statement is true. Steelers say to TJ Watt, you're fortunate to be a Steeler. Now, I think TJ Watt is also accurate. You're fortunate to have me. That's fair. 100% fair, because go back to 2021 at that point, TJ Watt is like the best defensive player in the league. You could argue that he was helping the squad and with our offensive woes stay relevant and make it to the playoffs. Although up to 2021, yeah, because 2019, that's when Ben was out. Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, because with we did have Big Ben for a couple of those seasons. Big Ben was a big part of why we were relevant too. But going into the future and trying to maintain that relevancy with Ben retiring, Like I could see where TJ Watt's bringing up that perspective because there's uncertainty on offense. There's uncertainty at the quarterback position. We're drafting a Kenny Pickett. We were bringing in a Mitch Trubisky. We got Mason Rudolph as our third guy. And we saw how it played out after TJ got that extension and Matt Canada couldn't do anything with Kenny and Mitch and those guys on offense. Big shocker, right? Big shocker. Dude that failed in college or was mediocre in college, couldn't figure out how to run an offense in the NFL. I digress with that. It was just a different time, though. It's a different time because when TJ's saying that, he's in the prime of his career, absolute peak of his powers. Whereas now, 30 years old, coming off of a stretch at the end of last season where he's putting up goose eggs, not as much impact. And we can't expect TJ to age out this contract, this new contract that he's about to be getting, as well as the one that we gave him in 2021, just naturally, just based off the age, just how the natural law works with aging, right? So yeah, I could see it both. Yeah, you just wonder how does it get to this point with negotiations? How does it get to this point? Like, is that the smartest way to go about it if you're the Steelers and saying that to TJ Watt? You're fortunate to be a Steeler. Is there a better way? Like, I feel like there's got to be a better way to go about this because TJ Watt was, I mean, in 2021, he don't want to hear that. Even if there is some truth to it, he don't want to hear that. And like, he's probably right for thinking and responding and saying, you're fortunate to have me because of how good he was and how good he would be being a part of any franchise in the NFL. Like he'd still be productive. He'd still be putting up a crazy trajectory as a player at that point, just because, as I said, if you're great, you're great. You figure it out one way or another. Like even if Tom Brady wasn't with the Patriots, I'm sure he figures it out. He's not the Tom Brady that we know, but he has success. I just think the greats figure it out one way or another. But does TJ have the same cachet if he's with another team, if he's not rocking the black and gold? I don't think so. I think you can make an argument. Yeah, maybe not as much. He's fortunate. So that goes back to what I was saying with the last headline with Schefter. I mean, both sides benefit from each other. If it's true that both sides want to get this done and want to be a part of each other's future for the next 3-4 years, you figure it out. I wouldn't look too much into this though. This is just business. You're trying to get every point possible as a part of the negotiation. Like this is what happens with the NFL and the NFLPA and the union stuff. Like this is what happens with negotiations, contracts. There's going to be stuff said that you're going to have thick skin. You're going to have to try to have no hard feelings with it, not get the emotions involved. Because again, you're trying to get it to be in your favor as much as possible. Now, because there's two sides and both sides want different things, you're not going to get 100% of the deal go your way. You're not going to be able to get TJ Watt to play for the next 5 years for you on the vet minimum. That's just not how this works. Going to have to make some concessions, and we'll see who makes more concessions with this TJ Watt Steelers deal, because this needs to happen for the 2025 season. It needs to happen. Last thing though, with the TJ Watt stuff, Tom Pelissero brings up his perspective. If basically the Steelers and TJ can't come to terms, what would be TJ's trade price? What would be his trade value around the league? He says, what can you get at this point for TJ? For one thing, a 2026 draft pick doesn't help you. But even if you were getting a 2026 draft pick, is somebody giving up a first-round pick and more for TJ Watt? Again, never say never, Rich. He's talking to Rich Eisen. But when the Bengals were at Trey Hendrickson's request, shopping Trey Hendrickson earlier this offseason, they were asking for a first-round pick. They weren't being offered a first-round pick for a guy who led the league in sacks last year and has like 35 sacks over the past 2 seasons. And we just talked about how Trey Hendrickson had more sacks than TJ Watt last year. Maybe you could argue the better season because TJ did still finish higher in the depoy race at the end of the day and had more forced fumbles, had some more other counting stats higher than Trey Hendrickson. But like, Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, they're kind of, it feels like they're on a similar level now. Like Trey Hendrickson is finally being talked about in that same stratosphere as TJ, Myles Garrett, Bosa, and Micah Parsons, Max Crosby. And teams weren't willing to give up a first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. Now, Trey Hendrickson is a little bit older than TJ. You can factor that in. But he is a guy that had 35 sacks over the past 2 seasons. Productive. Like, that's elite edge rush territory, right? So I looked at what some of these other edge rushers that got traded, some of these other elite edge rushers got traded for over the last few seasons to try to get a gauge on this and see if Pelissero is on the money here. Because you think TJ Watt getting traded, you're getting at least a first-round pick back. Like I wouldn't even have thought that'd be a question. But Khalil Mack, around the same time frame as where TJ Watt is in his career, I think he was, late 20s, early 30s, going from the Bears to the Chargers. He fetched the Bears a 2nd-round pick and a 6th-round pick. And the Chargers had to take on his contract at the time, which was like $23 million. And now we're at an inflation point because years have gone by and the NFL salary cap, all that stuff continues to go up. So $23 million. I think Khalil Mack was getting paid top 3 money for an edge rusher. 2nd-round pick, though. 6th-round pick. Okay. Brian Burns, who is more in the prime of his career versus TJ Watt. So you could argue who the better player is, TJ Watt at 30 versus Brian Burns. I'm still taking TJ Watt. But Brian Burns with the Panthers, prime of his career, looking for that first big deal, goes to the Giants for a 2nd-round pick and 2 5th-round picks and gets that contract at $28 million per year. So you can see I'm trying to bring up similar scenarios where guys are getting paid top of the line money and are being moved to new teams. So you got to consider the draft capital that's being given up and the fact, too, that the new team is going to have to pay them a sizable deal. So Khalil Mack, Brian Burns, both 2nd-round picks, both got their deals. Khalil Mack already had his deal with the Bears, but the Chargers took that on. More recently, or one of the more recent ones, just like Brian Burns, Montez Sweat, he goes from the Commanders to the Bears, 2nd-round pick, gets a new deal, $24 million. So it's not completely apples to apples because TJ Watt is better than all these guys. Khalil Mack's probably the most one-to-one comparison when you're just talking about player caliber. Because Khalil Mack at the time, around the same age as TJ. I mean, you're still taking TJ over Khalil Mack, but still. The thing is with Brian Burns and Montez Sweat, with their recent deals, like TJ Watt's looking for more than 28 and 24 million because those are the guys that were traded most recently and then got those deals. Like that's in a different stratosphere than TJ, but they're also younger than TJ. And that contract number for TJ, if traded, you would think that would bump down the trade value. So like whatever new deal he gets, if the Steelers trade him, I don't think it's happening. If the Steelers trade him, I think that the team that's getting him is like, bro, we're getting TJ Watt, but we got to pay him $40 million. That's different than paying Brian Burns $28 million and Montez Sweat $24 million, especially given their age too. They're more in the prime of their career versus TJ Watt. Again, we could argue still, who are you taking for this upcoming season? Brian Burns, Montez Sweat versus TJ Watt. I'm still taking TJ Watt, but think the deal that you're giving TJ Watt is going to be going to till he's 33, 34. So I do wonder, like it's, you see some of these elite edge rushers or top end edge rushers. I don't know if we could put Brian Burns, Montez Sweat in the elite category, but Khalil Mack certainly. They all went for 2nd-round picks. None of them went for 1st-round picks. All of them got their new deals. TJ Watt is TJ Watt, but you're going to be paying him more if you're trading for him. So again, that affects the trade value. You would think if TJ Watt's getting the contract that Brian Burns, Montez Sweat's getting, $28 million, $24 million with the new team, then I think first round pick easily, like you would easily have to give up a first round pick to get TJ. But you're probably going to have to pay him $40 million. So does that bump down what another team, the outside team, is willing to offer to get TJ? It's like a second round pick or maybe a third round pick. It's like, bro, we're giving you this draft pick, but we also got to pay TJ that amount, and he's 30 years old. Interesting. Yeah, I would still think TJ Watt goes for a first round pick because remember with the Myles Garrett stuff and how Myles Garrett said, I want to win a Super Bowl. Like my goal wasn't to go from Cleveland to Canton. My goal was always to win a Super Bowl. He put that statement out there and it was a trade request, right? Put it out there on social media, on Twitter. Remember when Myles Garrett did that and everyone was talking about, oh man, what's Myles Garrett's trade value? What's a team going to have to give up to get him? Everyone was talking about at least a first round pick, right? But ultimately, Myles Garrett just straight up lied about his desire to win a Super Bowl because he ends up signing back with the Cleveland Browns and signs a lucrative, 4 or 5 year deal worth $250 million. It's $40 million per year. We know what the contract is because we've been assessing this TJ Watt contract situation in relation to what Myles Garrett got paid. We know it's $40 million per year. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 years, but yeah, Myles Garrett basically just said, nah, that Super Bowl. That was a lie. I was just messing with all you guys. If Cleveland's offering me 40 per year, I'll take that because Myles Garrett signing for that amount with Cleveland does not help their chances at all to win a Super Bowl. I can guarantee you Cleveland does not win a Super Bowl throughout the course of Myles Garrett's contract or however long he stays a Cleveland Brown. But yeah, they were talking about Myles Garrett, first round pick, right? At least like if the Eagles were going to try to trade for Myles Garrett, they'd have to give up a first round pick. The Bills, some of these other teams that are in Super Bowl contention that would try to add that extra piece on defense to get them over the hump. First round pick for Myles Garrett. And so I would suspect because it's TJ Watt, bro. Like it's TJ. There's an extra level to adding a TJ Watt to your team that's not just trading for a Brian Burns or a Montez Sweat or even Khalil Mack at the time. Again, you want to talk about one-to-one, the most one-to-one player comparisons over the examples I just brought up. But Khalil Mack, he was having some down seasons with the Bears. Like he wasn't in the depoy conversation like TJ Watt was last year, even with TJ Watt's down season. So that was Khalil Mack going for a second round pick. Like, yeah, I would suspect at least a first round pick for TJ Watt, at least. But again, that doesn't help us this year. It would send mixed signals about our goal to go all in for 2025, given that we just signed Aaron Rodgers and made all these other blockbuster moves this offseason. The deal's going to get done. Let's just get it done. Let's try to get the tension. Let's try to get the bad blood off to the side as quick as possible as we head into training camp just a couple of weeks away. And then before you know it, preseason games, and then you blink again, it's the regular season, and football was back. I cannot wait. This is going to be an awesome season. Awesome. Such a fun season, man. Such a fun season ahead of us. So many different storylines, so many different side things going on from the Steelers' perspective with us trading Pickens to the Cowboys, Kenny Pickett potentially going to be starting for the Browns, Russ on the Giants, Fields with the Jets, Najee with the Chargers. So much going on. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this season starting. I'm looking forward to TJ Watt getting this deal done sooner rather than later. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments over everything I just went over. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Stay chilling. Peace.